audition for that part? Nobody's picking on this. She started this shit.
1 year after getting slapped at the Oscars by Will Smith, Chris Rock spoke up about the event in his Netflix special, Selective Outrage. But what do his facial expressions, body language, and most importantly, word choice reveal? What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Behavioral Arts. My name is Spidey and I use my degree in sociology and psychology, my certifications in criminal interrogation and body language analysis, and over 10 years experience as an award-winning mentalist to teach people behavioral analysis and practical psychology on stages and television shows all over the world. This week is a very special video for me for a couple of reasons. First of all, a year ago, right around this time, something happened that pretty much changed my career when Will Smith got on stage at the Oscars and slapped Chris Rock across the face. At the time, my channel was rather new. It was just a couple of months old. I had started this channel and I analyzed the body language and some of the behaviors we saw, the facial expressions, and broke down all the elements of what we saw, and that video went flying. It's the reason a lot of you found this channel. It was featured on news channels all over the world. It was number 10 on trending on YouTube, and it just changed the course of this channel. And I'm so thankful that so many of you found the channel because of this event, and here we are a year later, and for the first time publicly, Chris Rock is addressing what happened. Because Will Smith did a couple of times. He had an apology video, he took some interviews where he talked about it, and we talked about all those things on the channel, but this is the first time Chris Rock is speaking up in his comedy special on Netflix. The second reason this analysis is really special is probably something a lot of you thought about, and it's the fact that this is a performance by one of the most accomplished performers in the world. And that changes the game a little bit. Because usually when I analyze behavior in interviews or in trials or real life moments, this isn't something that's rehearsed or practiced. It's something that you're seeing in the moment. So a lot of the gestures that we're seeing are leaking the emotion that the person is feeling, and the word choice is often the first thing that the person thinks of saying. So it tells us a lot about what's going on in their head. In this case, it's different. This is something that he scripted. As a brilliant comic, this is what he chose to say. And he wrote it, he probably practiced it in smaller clubs, refined it, worked on it. So we're seeing something that's really polished. But through that, can we still see some gestures, some facial expressions that reveal to us what Chris Rock is actually experiencing, how he's feeling? Are there things about this segment of the performance that are different behaviorally from the rest of the performance? And if so, what can those things tell us about how he feels about Will Smith, Jada, the whole event? So instead of focusing only on the body language and the things that would be better concealed because this is rehearsed, we're going to focus on those choices, why he chose to say things the way he said them, why he chose to put this where he put it in the set. There's a lot of really great psychology here as to the actual decisions that were made, and I'm going to be bringing in a lot of my experience here as a performer, not only as a behavioral analyst.
I'm going to try to do a show tonight without offending nobody, okay? I'm going to try my best. You know why? Because you never know who might get triggered. Got to watch what you say, because words hurt. You know, anybody that says words hurt has never been punched in the face.
Okay, so right off the top, there's a lot to talk about. So that clip, by the way, is him getting right into the set. It's the first thing that he says. After he comes out, he thanks the audience. That's what he says. And when it comes to writing a show, any live entertainer is going to spend a lot of time, I think the most time, thinking about the opening and the closing. That's the two places where we focus the most. And I'm talking any type of live entertainer, whether we're talking about musicians, singers, dancers, comedians, magicians, or mentalists like me. The beginning is where you get to know your audience and they get to know you. So typically you want to come out with something that you know is going to hit, but you're also kind of testing. And we'll get back to that in a second. And then we focus on the closing as well. You want to start and end really, really strong. And by the way, this has psychological merit because of the principles of primacy and recency, which dictate that we remember our first impression of people and we remember the last thing that somebody said to us when we last saw them. So in a show, you're most likely to remember what happened right in the beginning and what happened right at the end. And that's going to cause the impression you get leaving the show. So in the middle, we typically put things that maybe we're working on or things that are a little bit longer. But in the beginning and the end, you usually want to start and end strong. It's also an opportunity, once again, to test the audience. So in magic, in mentalism, often In that first bit, which we know is really strong and it's going to get the attention, we're also testing. We want to know, do they like the silly jokes? Do they like the more intellectual kind of references? Can I be a little playful? Should I be a little more professional? We're getting to know the audience. So here's what's brilliant about what Chris Rock did right there. First of all, he's coming out with a relatable joke. He's getting right into the punch, about kind of the theme of what this special is going to be about, how people are often triggered and how he's trying to avoid that. But look at what we just heard. Look at that set. Here's the brilliance of that psychologically. If I were to ask you the question, what he just said, was that about Will Smith? Was that about the Oscars? There's no real way to know the answer to that. It's very ambiguous. It's very unclear because he's saying, nowadays people get triggered so easily. So is this a general statement that's setting the mood for the comedy? Or is that a comment on Will Smith? Is he planting that seed? Because when I heard that, I was like, ooh, he's going to talk about Will Smith. Now he doesn't, but it's kind of like he's planting that seed and he's throwing that hook to see what the mood is. And the response is good. We can see him scanning the audience. He does this a lot. He wants to know what hits. He wants to know which direction he can go. So right there, he's starting to suggest that we're going to talk about how easily people get triggered, and I want to see how they're going to respond to this. He's tiptoeing into the water. Notice how he says, anyone who says words hurt has never been punched in the face. Now, technically, he didn't get punched in the face at the Oscars. He got slapped, hit in the face, but there's definitely a reference there. So it's kind of this, I'm talking about Will Smith, but not really talking about Will Smith, because I want to know what the mood is in here before I really go into that subject. This is also going to give me a great opportunity right now and for the next hour pretty much to baseline his behavior on this day, on this stage, at this event. So often on the channel, we talk about the difference between baseline behaviors and idiosyncratic behaviors. Idiosyncratic behaviors are things that are specific to one individual regardless of setting. So whether they're at home, whether they're on stage, whether they're on an interview, doesn't matter, something that this person does often. Baseline is different from that. Baseline is what are the behaviors that we're seeing in this moment on this stage during this performance. And when the segment on Will Smith comes up later on, are those behaviors going to change? Now in analysis, we usually put idiosyncratic behaviors and baseline behaviors under the same umbrella and we just call it baselining. Basically, I want to know what are his behaviors throughout this special in terms of comfort, in terms of facial expressions, in terms of body language, tone. What are we seeing? And I want to know if that's going to change when he starts talking about Will Smith. Is there going to be a shift in those behaviors? So let's look at some of these behaviors. From the moment he comes out on stage, we're seeing him pace back and forth a lot as he scans the audience. Now this is idiosyncratic. I've seen Chris Rock on stage numerous times. Of course, at the award shows like at the Oscars, he is standing in place because you have to. But when he's doing his comedy sets, he often goes back and forth like this and connects with the entire audience. So that's absolutely idiosyncratic and falls under his baseline for this performance. We're also seeing a lot of leaning forward when he hits those jokes, which isn't uncommon, but it's happening quite a bit more during this set than I've seen in other sets. There's a lot of this forward leaning where he's leaning towards the audience. And this could just be the way he's feeling today. He's really feeling, connected with this audience. Doesn't matter what the reason is, there's a lot of this forward leaning happening with the audience. Another behavior that we're seeing, which is absolutely idiosyncratic, is we're seeing him smile quite often. Chris Rock is one of those comedians where throughout his set, he often smiles as he's delivering his jokes. He sometimes even chuckles at the end of a joke and laughs along with the audience. So we see that consistently throughout this set. What I find particularly interesting about this smiling thing is that right in the beginning here, he's talking about how easily people are triggered nowadays. And if you look at it in that moment, in that character, he's expressing anger towards how easily people are triggered. He's impatient about that. He's not happy about that. But we're not seeing any real anger. He's smirking throughout that. It's a way to let you know we're just having a good time here. I'm complaining, but remember, this is comedy. And that's going to be really, really important because in this moment, even when he's talking about something that he's irritated by, he's still smiling through that. Put a pin in that. The last thing that I want to talk about before we move on is a really big, important decision that has been made that's just displayed in front of us throughout this entire special. As someone who studied criminal profiling, but more importantly, as a mentalist, as someone who does cold readings, basically it's my job for someone to come in and based on certain clues that I'm seeing to be able to tell the person details about their lives, the way they think, the way they function, things I can't possibly know. And I'm very open, by the way, when I perform that I'm not a psychic or I don't have certain abilities, that I'm using psychology, observation, and trickery. And in this case, a lot of how we do cold readings, a lot of how we do profiling in interrogation or interview settings is focusing on decisions and knowing how to interpret them. Because at any given point, we're all displaying decisions that we've made. The things we wear, the backgrounds of our videos, these all give you clues and insight as to what a person is trying to project. If you talk to any entertainer on this planet, they will tell you that they give a lot of thought to what they wear before they come out on stage. Any entertainer who tells you that they don't think about what they're gonna wear when they go out on stage, they just grab something and throw it on, is either not a really great entertainer or they're lying to you. This is even more true for television appearances. Anytime I've ever been on television, there was a lot of thought into what I was gonna wear. And it's not just me. There are stylists that we work with, there are stylists that the network works with, our managers, the producers, all have input, and there are conversations about what the artist is going to wear. So what Chris Rock is wearing here isn't a fluke. There was decision behind this, and not just his decision, but he probably worked with stylists as well, and this is what they came up with. So let's look at what it is. First of all, quite fashionable. You know, slim pants are in, chunky heels, those are in as well. Looks great, but all white. Except for the soles of his shoes, everything we're seeing is white. Now, white typically represents purity, innocence, a blank slate, neutrality. It's not tainted by anything, it's just white. And if we look at that necklace as well, let's take a look at that necklace. That symbol on his necklace is called the love symbol, and it was designed by Prince and his team, and it was even on the cover of one of his albums. When asked about it, Prince said that he wanted to merge the female and male symbol together, so there are elements from both of those in this symbol. And he also said for him, it's a way to leave his past behind him and just kind of start anew. It's about bringing people together. It's about a new start, a new beginning. So what does this mean? Well, it could just mean that he's wearing the necklace because, you know, he was close with Prince. He likes the necklace. When he had a talk show, Prince was on that talk show. So they were probably quite close. It could just be that, but I think it's a little bit too much of a coincidence for me that we have this symbol for love and togetherness and new beginnings while wearing this kind of neutral blank slate color. It's almost like new beginnings and neutrality is a theme of what he's wearing and what he's talking about. Because throughout this special, very often he talks about being all encompassing, being all accepting, how he accepts all kinds of people. So for me, for him to say that while wearing that necklace, all in white, I think there's a theme here of neutrality, accepting everyone, innocence, almost purity as well.
I saw a commercial the other day. Snoop was selling reverse mortgages. Called them doggages. What the is a doggage? I'm not dissing Snoop. Last thing I need is another mad rapper, right?
All right, so that is the first reference to Will Smith. And again, there's quite a bit going on right there. First of all, I need to go back to that baseline and really look at this. So he's talking about the Snoop Dogg commercial, and he said that Snoop Dogg called reverse mortgages doggages. And he's trying to represent, again, irritation and anger in this moment where he goes, what the F is a doggage? And you could see his eyebrows are like this, like I'm representing anger, like I'm irritated by this. What is that? And he is very expressive with his face. He's very good at channeling these different emotions, at least to project to the audience. But still in that moment, throughout that, he's still smiling. And I think this is a really effective tool that he has to say, you know, even when I'm having these emotions and I'm pissed off about this, I'm irritated by that, we're still having a good time here. So that smile is still there. Remember that. Now notice what happens the moment he says that the last thing he wants is another mad rapper. In other words, he's referencing Will Smith. This is the first reference to Will Smith that he's making, the first concrete reference where he's saying, you know, the last thing I want is another rapper who's mad at me. And notice what happens. He stops and he scans. We see the eyes scanning and he's taking inventory. He wants to know how that landed. He is very good at noticing in the audience how people are reacting to shift how he's going to talk about certain things. And this is him looking to see if he has permission to diss Will Smith. Now, the reaction that he gets for that statement in that moment is excellent. Up until this moment in this special, that is one of the top 3 reactions from the audience. So he's going, okay, I have permission here to start talking about Will Smith. Now he's not going to come back to it for a while, but he's taken inventory at this point, and he knows that this is going to play well.
Beyonce is so fine that if she worked at Burger King, she could still marry Jay-Z. Now, if Jay-Z worked at Burger King, that is not a Jay-Z diss. I do not need another rapper mad at me, okay? I don't need that smoke. I'm like, The Rock. I do not need the smoke. Y'all know what happened to me, getting smacked by Suge Smith.
Okay, now we're jumping right into the Will Smith topic. So once again, he doesn't dive right in. He dips his toes in first. He does the Jay-Z thing, which is a callback to the Snoop Dogg joke. You know, I don't want another rapper mad at me. So he makes a joke about Jay-Z. He says that. The reaction is once again great. And now he kind of takes that momentum and goes right into the Will Smith topic. Now, before he gets into it, we see 2 grooming gestures. One of them is he goes to his necklace in this area and he kind of adjusts. And then his hand goes down and he adjusts the bottom left of his shirt with his left hand. Now, earlier when we were talking about baselining and idiosyncratic behaviors, I forgot to mention this. He does this a lot throughout this special, the one with the bottom of the shirt. His left hand often goes up and he adjusts the bottom of that shirt. Now, this is a grooming gesture. Grooming is something we do to fix our appearance. Sometimes we do it out of stress. I wouldn't really classify this as a pacifying gesture. Pacifiers are usually repetitive and they're there to soothe us. Grooming is typically just really quickly fixing our appearance, maybe nervously, but it typically happens a lot for people who are in front of an audience, in front of a camera. It's kind of the back of our mind being aware that people are watching, so we might make a quick adjustment. And this is happening a lot for him. It's not happening particularly at moments that he feels self-conscious. It's happening randomly. So the shirt thing is happening a lot throughout this special. For those of you who watched it or are going to watch it, pay attention to that. It happens a lot. Up here, not so much. He doesn't go to the necklace or to the collar very often. He goes down to the bottom of the shirt much more often. So here, as he's about to jump into the topic, we see an adjustment up here with the necklace. Then we see an adjustment down there with the shirt. I think this is him going, okay, here we go. We're going to jump into this topic. And the mind is just subconsciously really quickly grooming because we're diving right in.
Everybody knows, yes, it happened. I got smacked like a year ago. Last week, I got smacked in the Oscars by this mother. And people like, did it hurt? It still hurts.
When he says, I got smacked at the effing Oscars by this mother F, look at the tone there. When he calls them mother effers. So first of all, that's a decision. He chose to call him, that term. And that's immediately shots fired, right? Because, Chris Rock often uses this N or that B or this F, but it's more playful most of the time. Here, even if I censored it, you could sense in his tone that there's aggression there. He spits out that term, mother effer. So it's shots fired. Like, here we go. This is going to be a roast. We're getting right away the mood of I'm going after him.
First of all, I know you can't tell on camera, Will Smith is significantly bigger than me. We are not the same size, okay? Will Smith played Muhammad Ali in a movie. You think I auditioned for that part? Shit, even in animation, this mother's bigger. I'm a zebra, he's a shark. What the man?
But there's something else here that really caught my attention, and I really don't know what's going on here because it doesn't make sense in my head that nobody caught this before they sent it out. They didn't watch this again. An editor didn't catch something here. I don't know, to the point where I'm doubting myself because it doesn't make sense that this line is in this special. And it's when he says that even in animation, he's bigger than me because I was a zebra, he was a shark. Now, I'm a huge movie fan. I love animated movies particularly, and I know that Chris Rock played Marty, the zebra in Madagascar. So I know that, obviously. He's referencing that role. But Will Smith never played a shark. I don't know what that reference is. He played in a movie called Shark Tale, there was sharks in that movie, but he didn't play a shark. He wasn't a big, scary shark. He was a tiny little fish, actually, who was struggling with his identity. So What's this reference? Am I missing something? I did a quick search, tried to find what he's talking about. Maybe there's something that, because I'm Googling Will Smith shark, so obviously Shark Tale is coming up. Was there another role where he was a shark? Or is Chris Rock just confused about this reference? And if so, why did nobody catch this? Presumably he went out and tested this set. Presumably he has his manager, his editors, they watch this, they listen, they look at it. Nobody caught that reference is inaccurate? Will Smith didn't play a shark. Anyways, I thought that was really, really strange. Let me know in the comments, am I off? Did Will Smith voice a shark at some point and I completely missed it? But here's the bigger point of what this joke did. Whether I'm the one who's wrong or this is wrong, and I'm 98% sure that this is wrong, what it's doing for a lot of people who are watching this is it's putting more critical goggles on them. Because anybody who heard that line and goes, wait a second, Will Smith was never a shark. He was in a movie called Shark Tale. Now they're filtering everything Chris Rock says through a filter of accuracy. Is what he's saying true? And I think that to some people, that's going to play to his disadvantage with what's coming up now.
Everybody that really knows I had nothing to do with that shit. I didn't have any entanglements. I did not have any entanglement. And then for people that don't know, and everybody know, his wife was her son's friend, okay?
Okay, so this is where we're going to start to see that deviation from baseline. So as you look at his behaviors here, even instinctively, I'm sure a lot of you will notice it's different from when he's delivering the comedy. When he's delivering the comedy, yes, he often goes into this higher pitch. It's a very Chris Rock thing to do. He often paces back and forth. All those things are still there. But there's a difference in his tone here. It's more serious. It's more like that, and we see that smile. It's not there. It's starting to disappear at this point. He's delivering this with a more serious, more aggressive tone. He's pushing it home more, and we're seeing real frustration come through here. It's about to get worse, and we're seeing that smile go away. He's not smiling throughout those moments where he's kind of pretending to be angry or irritated. This is real irritation coming through. Look at when he says his wife was effing his son's friend. First of all, again, that tone is so like, it's almost aggressive. He's not laughing. He's not delivering this the way he delivers jokes. He's informing with anger behind it. We even see the eyebrows throughout this piece go down several times like this without that smile. Because earlier with the Snoop Dogg thing, you had this, but there was this smile. And notice how if I do this, it's kind of a little more, like I'm talking to you about something that might irritate me, but I'm smiling. Here, it's this. Everybody knows. His wife was effing his son's friend. He knows. So he just talked about how Will Smith has physical advantages. But the one thing Chris Rock has is words. He's a comedian. The guy's been doing this his entire life. He knows how to use words to make it hurt. And if you notice what he said there, not just with the tone, but the choice of words, the decisions, it's not she had an affair, she hooked up with, she slept with. It's not, yeah, we all know she slept with her son's friend. It wasn't that. It's she effed his son's friend. He knows that the way he chose to say that sentence, the word choice, the intonation, the way he drove it home with that emphasis, hurts Will Smith more than that slap ever would have hurt Chris Rock. These words, because he's seen Will Smith struggle with that. We all saw the Red Table Talk where Will Smith was having a hard time with that. Chris Rock here knows that this is the way to get back at Will Smith, and this hurts way more than the slap.
I normally would not talk about this shit. But for some reason, these put that shit on the internet. I have no idea why two talented people would do something that low down. What the
There is one thing I want to focus on here that's a really, really great psychological tip that you can use in your day-to-day life, and it's quite practical. So you'll notice he referred to them as talented people. And to some people that may have sounded a little strange because you're going right in the middle of this rant where he's like tearing them up. He calls them talented. Such a bizarre thing. Why would he acknowledge their talent when he's trying to knock them down? Well, actually, it's the reverse of what we think. The fact that he would refer to them as talented makes him tearing them down more effective. Let me explain. If I spend 10 minutes tearing someone down, just nothing but negative stuff, you might walk away from that and go, okay, well, he's clearly biased against this person. I can't trust his opinion. But if I spend some time complimenting someone, pointing out the good, but then I point out the bad as well, it gives more weight to that negative because you go, okay, well, this person's obviously sound-minded, obviously considering both sides, so that negative seems more believable. In fact, that's a big part of the reason why we learn in analysis to look at both sides, and why in my videos I make an effort to do that. Because if you come to my videos and I'm stuck on one side, clearly biased, and all I'm looking for is negative or all I'm looking for is positive, my opinion loses weight. Which is why when in the comments I see people who are completely polarized, like are convinced that something is all bad or all good and aren't applying critical thinking to consider both sides, to me I can't take that comment seriously. You're too biased. You're not critically thinking about the situation at all. So something we teach very often in psychology or persuasion is if you want someone to agree with something you're about to say, more specifically if you're about to criticize something for whatever reason and you want them to kind of see your position, compliment them first. Legitimately, find something positive that you admire about them and put that compliment down first, then the criticism. The reason for this is if you just start with the criticism and give nothing but criticism, they can easily go, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, and just throw away your opinion. But if you complimented them first, it's harder for them to discredit you entirely because part of your opinion is praise, is a compliment. So they want to believe that you know what you're talking about because you just complimented them. So let me give you a really basic example, just off the top of my head. Let's say you go to a friend's house for dinner and they cook you spaghetti and you don't like it and you want to be honest with them. You want to give them some constructive criticism. If you were to say, you know, I don't like the spaghetti, it's not very good, I've had better, they might go, yeah, what do you know? What does this person know? They don't know what they're talking about, my spaghetti's delicious. On the other hand, if you compliment them first, honestly compliment them and saying something like, you know, I gotta be honest with you, I think you're a terrific cook. In fact, when you made that roast last time, that was incredible. I was talking about it for weeks. I just think this isn't your best work. I think it's lacking a bit of flavor, for example. Well, now it's much harder for them to go, no, you know what you're talking about, because you complimented their cooking in general and you legitimately said that you like something else that they made. So now your opinion holds a lot more weight. So in this example, when Chris Rock acknowledges something that is undeniable, the fact that Jada and Will Smith both are talented individuals, when he says that, because we know they're talented, right? If he calls them untalented, then we go, okay, you're clearly biased against them. So he's giving credit where credit is due. They are talented, but there's all these other things about them that isn't so positive. So now we look at it and go, right, so he's not biased. He's acknowledging their talent, but he's right about all these other things. So it gives more weight to his opinion. Also, if someone is watching this who's a Will Smith and Jada fan, they will listen to that and go, oh good, he's acknowledging their talent. So then when he says the negative stuff, they can't throw it all away. Because in throwing that away, they would have to acknowledge that Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith are not talented. So it's actually brilliant for him to refer to them as talented in that moment. It gives his opinion more weight.
Everybody in here have been cheated on. None of us have ever been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. Why the f would you do that shit? She hurt him way more than he hurt me, okay?
So I think right there, he's continuing to just twist the knife with his best weapon, which is his words. He even says it right there, she hurt him way more than he ever hurt me. I think that's a message directly to Will. Like, no matter how many times you hit me, it's not gonna undo how bad you were hurt by your wife. He knows this. I think it's a subconscious like missile fired right at Will. And these are powerful words. I think in the back of his mind, he knows Will is gonna see this and that this is gonna hurt back way more than the slap, just as he said it. Another thing about this is I saw a few articles online of people correcting Chris Rock and saying, no, she didn't cheat on him because they had an arrangement. It was an open marriage. They had that discussion. I think the reason people are criticizing his facts here is because there were a few things like that Shark Tale thing where it put us in a mode where we're criticizing the accuracy of his claims. I think that by making that mistake of Shark Tale, it puts some of us in this critical thinking mood of, okay, not everything he's saying is accurate. Now I gotta fact check what he's saying. So he got fact checked a lot for this specific segment about the cheating. And that's a big debate. by the way, online. A lot of people saying, oh, well, it was cheating because she was dishonest about it. And other people who said, no, they had an arrangement, so it's totally fine. That debate exists. But I think a lot of people here are really kind of attacking his facts because there are these things that are factually debatable.
Everybody in the world called him a bitch. I tried to call him a and give him my condolences. He ain't pick up for me. And Charlemagne called him a bitch, and the Breakfast Club called him a bitch, and the Drink Champs called him a bitch. They called his wife a predator. Everybody called him a bitch.
Right, and there we're once again getting this confirmation that we've left the comedy character and we're getting real sentiment here. First, notice when the first time he says everybody called him a B word, we see a quick little smile. And I don't think that's him going that comedy character. I think it's him being happy about the fact that everyone called Will Smith this word. And now he says it again and again and again. And every time it's that same intonation. The eyebrows are down. We're not smiling. We're really emphasizing that word again and again. And everyone said it. These people said it. That people said it. And again, I think this is for Will Smith. He knows this is going to get back to Will Smith. And he's going, because he knows, as actors, as entertainers, public image is important to them. Will Smith has often said things in interviews that would suggest that what the public thinks is very important. Chris Rock knows that. So he's going, everyone called you this. And he's really emphasizing that word. Even at the end, he says it so many times that the audience just laughs. He's just pushing this title, and every time there's that real spitting of the words, and we're getting real frustration in the energy and the intonation. Look at the face. The eyebrows are down. There's tension around the eyebrows around over here. And again, that smile is gone.
She said he should quit because Will didn't get nominated for concussion. Fuck, that's how it is. She started, I finish it, okay? That's what the happened. Nobody's picking on this bitch. She started this shit. Nobody was picking on her.
Whew, talk about micro expression. Right there when he says, nobody's picking on this B. First of all, again, we've left the comedic tone behind. This isn't delivered the way he delivers comedy. He's using a very aggressive word. He's spitting it out aggressively. And even the audience reacts. Even the audience listens, they go, ooh, when he says that, when he calls her that. They understand inherently that shots are being fired. Even if he often uses derogatory terms to reference people more playfully, in a more fun way, here they sense that there's real tension. And the reason they sense it, well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if we look at those eyes, around the eyes, the eyebrows have come down again, which is very consistent with anger, but there's something with the eyebrows we got to remember. The eyebrows go down with thought as well. When we're in deep thought, confused, or something like that, the eyebrows might come down. But the eyebrows are not the only thing that we're seeing there. The upper eyelids are also opening up. And that is 100% an indication of anger. In fact, it's one of the telltale signs when that upper eyelid opens up. We think it's because when we're angry, we're trying to get as much information as we can. That's why the nostrils also open up, because we're trying to get as much intel as we can to try to figure out how to react, because our body feels that we might have to react. And there's actual research that shows that when our eyes are open, we do take in more information with our peripherals. So whatever the case, right there, we're seeing those eyelids open up, and it's happening a lot throughout this segment. And I think the audience sense that there's real anger there. Also notice another thing that's happening that doesn't happen very often is his chin is down and he's looking up. Again, neck guarding is something we do when we're feeling defensive or aggressive. When the chin comes down and protects a very important part of the body, which is the neck. So we have neck down, eyes up, eyelids open, eyebrows down. This is not, I think, a character. I think we're actually seeing real anger come through in this moment.
And a lot of people go, Chris, how come you didn't do nothing back? How come you didn't do nothing back that night? Because I got parents. That's why. Because I was raised. Okay?
And right there at the end, I think once again, there's a little message for Will Smith. I think he's got his sights set on Will Smith, and he stayed silent for a year, didn't bite back, and I think this is him going, this is where I fight back. Will Smith has been very open about the fact that he grew up with an abusive father. So his father abused his mom and he couldn't do anything about it and he felt powerless. With this line, I think Chris Rock is just hitting under the belt. He's going, I had parents. You didn't, your father was not a good person. He beat your mom. And by saying that he had adequate parents, he's suggesting that Will Smith, who did resort to violence, doesn't have adequate parents. So with that one line, he's reminding him that his father was a bad parent. And at the same time, he's also calling his mom a bad parent because she didn't raise him to be nonviolent. So it's a really kind of, again, like, I feel right here at the end that I'm not at a comedy show anymore. It's almost like he's really going after Will Smith, particularly with this line. And we can have a conversation about this in the comments as to whether or not it was okay for him to go there. Will Smith got up and slapped him. It was misplaced. Chris Rock knows how to use his words to get back. And I think in this moment, we're seeing him really hit back with his words. But the most brilliant thing in this whole set, and I almost guarantee you that this is by design, I would bet on the fact that this is by design, is the fact that not once in that set did he say Jada's name. And I think there's irony, brilliance, comedy to that, because his instructions at the Oscars were, keep my wife's name out your mouth. That's what Will Smith aggressively yelled at him twice. And Chris Rock even said, I'm going to.
Keep my wife's name out your mouth.
I'm going to, okay?
And I think there's just this brilliant comedic irony here to the fact that he referenced her numerous times as his wife, her, that be, but he never said her name. And he never even addressed the fact that he didn't say her name. And I didn't see too many articles or anything like that talking about how he didn't say her name, but he didn't. He respected those instructions. He came back at them. He hit back hard with his words, even said a few things that were really going for their emotions, but he never said her name. So when he said, I'm going to, keep her name out my mouth, he never said her name. And maybe this is like a PR thing. Maybe he's going to go on interviews and say, hey, I never said her name. I'm not sure what the angle here is, but it's kind of brilliant that he never said the name Jada. So that about wraps it up. What do I think at the end of the day? So as you all know, it's not a big secret. I think Chris Rock initially handled the situation like a champ. When he got hit at the Oscars, immediately we saw him. He went into a fist, he stepped back, but then he calmed down, had amazing self-control. We saw him processing, we saw him a bit confused, but he kept his composure. He was diplomatic. He got over the situation. Everyone complimented how well he handled that. And he did really well. Then he didn't take any interviews. He didn't go insult anyone. He didn't do anything for a really long time. That was also really great. While Will Smith was, trying to apologize, Will Smith was trying to explain, Chris Rock was just kind of staying out of it. Now with this comedy special, well, yeah, he went after them. He used his words, his best weapon, to really go after them. And he did a good job at it. He said things that he knows is going to emotionally impact them really powerfully. And there's two ways to look at this. One is to go, wow, he really left the comedy thing for a sec there and he really aggressively went after them. That was inappropriate. But another way to look at it is go, it's his show. You don't have to watch it. It's not like he went to this public event or to this different thing and inappropriately did something. He did his own special and he expressed how he feels. And yes, there was some aggression there and he said some things that obviously show that he's really kind of not happy about this. But at the end of the day, it's his show, it's his stand-up set, and he's allowed to joke about whatever he wants to joke about. But let me know in the comments what you think as to whether or not it was appropriate to get that aggressive about it. Because there's moments, and I'm not even saying it's intentional, maybe his intention was to deliver it more in a jokey way, but we really saw this aggression come through, and the body doesn't lie. We saw those facial expressions change, and there was a lot more aggressiveness there. So let me know what you think in the comments. What was this okay for him to use this platform to really bite back? Or do you feel like he just should have stuck to the comedy, made a couple of jokes in a lighthearted manner, and moved on? I don't think there's a right answer, by the way. I don't think this is definitely good or definitely bad. I think it's how you interpret it. Art is very subjective. So some people might look at this and go, no, it's totally fine. Everything goes. It's his show. He's doing comedy up there. And other people might look at it and go, this maybe wasn't the place for this kind of thing. I think it's all valid. And again, I'm not a fan of comments who are like 100%, no, this is definitely the way it is. It's not definitely anything, but I look forward to hearing your comments to see what you thought of this set. Let me know in the comments, and I will see you on the next one.